And this is a great time to start dilating your parents, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your dog, and start practicing BIO.
Yeah.
Jen will mail you some tropicamide. Send her your address and she'll give you as much as you want.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the 2020 podcast, bringing clarity to business, entrepreneurship, and life. Thank you again for taking the time out of your day to join me here to learn and to grow. Today's episode is another session of group chat, which is the new webinar series that I've started recently. And in this group chat session, we had 4 amazing ODs, again, sharing their insights on a variety of topics that are, of course, affecting a lot of people right now during this outbreak and during our self-isolation. And the 4 ODs that we had on the call were Dr. Ryan Corte, Dr. Jenn Tsai, Dr. Chinn, and Dr. Will To. And you know, just from those names and their reputations that I'm sure you've seen online, they are amazing ODs with awesome insights. I had an incredible time and learned so much, and I'm sure you will as well. If you find some value from this, please do share it. Take a screenshot, whether you're listening on a podcast app or whether you're watching on YouTube. Take a screenshot, post it up on your Instagram story, and tag us all. Let us know what you thought, what you liked about it. And I'd love to hear your insights so we can continue to make these webinars and this podcast better. So once again, this is group chat session 2 with Dr. Jenn Chinn, Dr. Jenn Tsai, Dr. Ryan Corte, and Dr. Will To. I hope you love it, and I will see you back for another podcast episode real soon. Take care, guys. All the best. So first off, I want to say thank you to everybody who is attending. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us here. I know everybody's in isolation, but we all still have lots of things going on, even if it's just going for groceries. So I appreciate you taking the time to jump in and join us, guys. I really appreciate it. And then all our wonderful panelists, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you guys being here. I know especially you guys all have lots going on. I've been following you all very closely, of course. So thanks for taking the time. Just a real quick overview of how this is going to go. So we have some important topics that we want to cover. We're going to start touching on those in just a minute. And then we have a little quick fire round at the end. That's more for fun, but it helps get everybody engaged. And throughout this entire conversation, I would love for our attendees to also join in on the conversation. There is a chat box where you can drop your comments and your questions throughout. And we will actually, I'll probably have a little designated time where we can deliberately actually try to answer more questions if we don't squeeze them in during the actual conversation itself. So please feel free to jump in and have a good time, more importantly. So when I start what I want to do, thank you. Ryan knows, I like to try to just keep this as light as possible. There's enough going on in the world that's keeping us kind of stressed out. So it's more fun if we just enjoy this. So I want to do a quick fun introduction. I've been maybe you guys will have to show me at some point, but I've been trying to play music and talk over it, but every time I try and do that, Zoom just kind of cuts the music out. So last time I played, you guys know what the Chicago Bulls entrance music used to be back in the 90s. I played that for a second, and I wanted the attendees and the panelists to keep that in mind when I did the intro. So I'm going to play a different piece of music that I love. It's old, but I love it. I want you to try to keep this in mind when I'm doing my announcement here, okay? So.
I love it.
So that's gonna just shut off once I start talking. So I'm just gonna shut it off and I'm gonna just do my intro. So for the attendees who don't already know these amazing guests, maybe you do, we're gonna just do this for fun anyways. Hailing from San Diego, California, she is the co-owner of a private practice. She contributes to multiple publications like Vision Monday and Women in Optometry, and she was named one of Eye Care Business Magazine's 2019 Game Changers. You can find her at Dr.Chin. Please welcome Dr. Jennifer Chinn.
Hi. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hailing from Charlotte, North Carolina, he is a co-owner of multiple optometry clinics
He is the founder of Intro Wellness, and he recently changed his IG handle to @Ryan.
Yeah.
He is Dr. Ryan Corte. Welcome, Ryan. From New York City, New York, she is the founder of Carrot Eyewear and Line of Sight Vision, and her Instagram feed is the envy of optometrists and travel bloggers alike. She is Dr. Jenn and Juice. Please welcome Dr. Jenn Tsai. Last but not least, hailing from San Mateo, or maybe it's San Fernando, I don't know because I forgot to ask, California, owner of Optical Illusions and renowned speaker. He is self-proclaimed inspirationalist and digital marketeer, the traveling OD himself, Dr. Will Toe. Thank you very much.
Not so much traveling nowadays.
Not so much.
The stay-at-home OD.
Yeah, actually, that's already taken, so I couldn't do it. The quarantine OD is what I'm going for right now.
Ryan was confident enough to change his handle. You could do the same, Will. If you want.
Why not, man? You know, we got time.
Nothing but time.
I wish I could introduce all our amazing attendees the same way, but I apologize that we don't have the time, and I also don't have your bio. So we're going to jump right in. And what I like to do is jump right into the hard-hitting questions. So the number one thing I want to ask you, between Will and Ryan, who will grow a beard faster?
I think it's pretty obvious right there. I mean, really, we both have been trying since this whole thing started for a month. So as you can see, I might still have a chance. We'll see. You never know. We can have a late growth spurt, but
we got time. But truly, like to kind of get into this, of course, we're all mostly sitting at home. We've had to put most of our lives on pause. But really, one of the main things I want everyone to take away from this is there is a way to stay positive and productive. And Ryan, I'm going to start with you because you actually wrote an article and made a list, and we talked about it. I'd love for you to touch on a couple of things, if you can, that you've been doing to stay positive and productive during this time.
Sure. And thanks for having us, Arbir. This is, it's always fun to get on these and just kind of connect with colleagues. To be honest, I wrote that article just after I kind of was feeling the lull of knowing that things were going to change and this was out of our control. So, you know, from my perspective, I'm not one to just sit on my hands and do nothing. You know, I've never been that way. And so if life is going to evolve and change, we need to evolve and change with it. And so, you know, within the article, I talked about, you know, revamping your website, your brand, your social media presence. You know, from a business perspective, you know, reaching out to patients, telemedicine, contact lens sales, triaging, you know, all different things that you can possibly do, emergency medicine. But really at the end of the day, just maximizing the opportunity of, we now have time. We have more time than we know what to do with, right? And a lot of us have dreamed of moments where we have infinite amount of time. Now, we may not exactly have felt like we'd be quarantined during that time, but maximizing our opportunity to get things done during this time and spend time with our family and friends, that's really what I've been doing.
Great. Will, let's go to you next.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Ryan just said. I mean, you know, how many times have you had different projects that you just, you know, like you said, never had time for? You know, now that we have nothing but time, it's like, what's your excuse now? I mean, really, you have to look at the silver lining of all this, which is, look, you know, there's certain variables in life, a lot of variables in life, which you can't control. This is one of them. What you can control is what you do now with this time during these quarantines, you know, what your outlook is and how you basically move forward from this once things open up again, you know, and, you know, it really is, you know, it does require some work ethic there. You really got to, sometimes it's hard to push yourself every single day because, you know, to stay motivated, but really, like I said, you know, it's you know, mentally you want to prepare yourself for, you know, not just what you can do now, but also when everything opens up to be, you know, hitting the ground running as soon as it does. Yeah,
for sure. JT, how about you?
Totally agree with all of them. I am similar. I think I have a hard time just staying still. During this time, I'm still running Carrot, which is e-com, and trying to also make that better every day, and focusing on the construction of line of sight and seeing what we need to implement when we are able to open, because once it opens, we're trying to hit it hard. Sorry, that's my mom. Try to hit the ground really hard. So
you can answer that. You can answer her. That's fine. We'll put her on speaker.
Our webinar. So I think it's just to really emphasize that once you have all this time available and you don't want to come out of it thinking, where did all the time go? Because you had all this time. This is probably a month and maybe a little bit longer than that to really focus on the things that you need to do. And I think a lot of it starts with creating a list of 5, maybe 3 things that you want to achieve, and allotting time per day to it. Because what I've noticed is if I try to do a little bit of everything each day, I think it gets a little bit lost in the bigger purpose or picture, and I don't get a lot done. So I think really making a list of what's important and setting the steps to achieve it.
I think that's really great advice. Actually, I am guilty of trying to do a whole bunch of things all at the same time. And that is an easy way to induce anxiety for sure.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. JC, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with all of them. I didn't realize until this quarantine happened, like how burnt out I was just from working and social media and just trying to like build my brand on my own and like my office and everything. And it was just like when I sat down and wasn't seeing patients, I was like, wow, now I actually have the time to like commit and not feel so rushed to put content out there, or rushed to do certain things. So I'm really trying to take the time to build, that and work on our website, things like, Ryan talked about, and then also trying to educate myself so that I know how to help my staff during this time. During this time they're furloughed, so I'm kind of taking over all of their tasks on a day-to-day. So just making sure that they're supported while they're at home, but also making sure that our office is still running, our patients are still being cared for as well. So it's still a lot, but not as much as it was before. So definitely I agree with everyone else. We have the time now, so why not try to put yourself out there and do all the things that you dreamed of doing?
Yeah, absolutely. But taking the approach of maybe making a list first, and then kind of checking things off slowly is probably a really good way of going about it. Will, we have a really important question I'd like to address. Is Will Toe wearing suit pants or pajama pants? Please show us.
Don't show us, please.
I don't think I'm allowed to show you. I shouldn't show you. I got dressed up from about here and up, so below this, nobody wants to see that. But I am not wearing suit pants below this. Let's just say that. That's all you need to know.
No more details, please. Thank you. All right, excellent question. Please keep them coming. Whoops, wrong button. I wanted to touch on a little bit regarding each of your modes of practice. So, for example, being a clinic owner versus and then private practice versus corporate. Each of you kind of give me an idea of where your practice was right before this happened, and what you're hoping, at least, what you kind of foresee it being after this is all done. And that might be a few months from now, 6 months from now, whatever it is. But let's go in reverse order of what we just did. JC, if you could start us off.
Yeah, so right before this actually happened, our office had just renovated our optical. So it's still in progress now, but it was kind of a hard hit, like having spent all that time and energy and money to do this, grand reopening of celebrating 10 years of being in the city that we're in. And then we had to close like literally a week later. But right now, our office, we are a private practice. I co-own with my dad, and he's been in practice in San Diego for over 40 years. He had 3 private practices at one point, but now we're just focusing on one in the community that we're in. But yeah, it's been awesome working with my dad and having an immediate mentor that I can ask questions and learn from. I think it's definitely an interesting time for us, trying to figure out how to move forward of where this is going to look, or what our practice is going to look like after this, how we're trying to reach out to our patients, what our flow is going to be like after, not only from the renovation side, but also from the aspect of cleanliness and OSHA standards and everything like that after this has all happened. So definitely it's going to be a challenge for sure.
JT, I know you are in the process of building a brand new practice. If you can share with us what's happening with that, and kind of what your hope is in the near future, where to be.
Yeah, so Line of Sight is a sort of vision and wellness curated boutique, with the front of the house focused on eyewear, and the back of the house we're doing like specialty visits like ortho K, dry eye treatment, and just regular exams. The place is under construction. We were planning to open in April. As you can see, there's definitely some delays. Right now what we're dealing with is trying to figure out, permitting and rules to do construction, because in New York, it's definitely one of the hardest, the hardest hit area of all states. And there's a lot of things we don't know, and a lot of rules change day by day, and just figuring out what's allowed or what's not. So there has been a delay with construction, but with this time, we're just using it to figure out exactly how detailed we want everything to be, from how marketing looks to what type of structure we implement for management, and things like that. And hopefully when it opens, I think it'll give us more time to, I guess, if you look on the bright side, luckily we didn't hire anyone yet during this time, right before we didn't open for a week and then close. That would have been bad. But this allows us more time to really make that grand opening a big success when hopefully it does open.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully it gives you a little more time to prepare and think about things a little bit differently. So when you do open, it'll be even better than what you're going for.
Yeah.
JC, are you signing in twice? I see another Chinn signing in here.
Yeah, I don't know why that's happening. I didn't sign in again. So.
Okay. I will probably have to just cancel that one.
It might be one of those people who sneak into chat rooms and.
Well, the good thing is
the Zoom bomb.
Yeah, the Zoom bomb. Well, the good news is
you got Zoom bombed.
Impersonating Jenn.
Right.
Somebody who was going to predict what Will was wearing below his shirt, I think, they're going to come on camera. So, Will, on to you, my man. I know you recently purchased a practice not too long ago. So tell us about that process and where that's kind of left you now.
Yeah, so I purchased my practice back in August of last year. So it's only been a few months since I've been an owner. Practice is a 30-year-old practice, so it has been there for a while, but it focused a lot on routine care. So that's definitely been the interesting part about what's been going on right now, since routine care is considered non-essential. And but luckily, in the few months right before, I did spend a lot of money and time building up some of the more kind of specialty sides of optometry. Spent about $150,000 on equipment, OCT, Optos, Monaco, building up the medical side. So that we could handle glaucoma, diabetes, AMD. Was preparing the dry eye side of the clinic, LipiFlow, tear care, iLux. We fit our first scleral lens back in December. Fit our first CRT lens back in January. So there was a lot of things we were preparing for. I really wanted to, had the momentum. I wanted to keep it going. So this has been a little bit, it's tough because there was so much energy, so much enthusiasm from the staff. We were doing well. Patients were excited to see that we were introducing all these different services and specialties. And then everything just kind of stopped. So it's almost one of those things where it's like, I really am hoping that we can continue that as soon as everything reopens again. But it's also at the same time, I'm kind of glad that I didn't just stick with what the practice has been doing well for 30 years, because then I'd be able to offer nothing during this time. Right now we are open right now for essential care, essentially non-routine, urgent, and emergency care, which we are seeing, a handful of people a week. But had we had not made those changes before, I'd be seeing no one, and I'd be forced to close. So right now, it's still enough that I can pay my staff, keep them there, hopefully, keep it going. It's not sustainable, but at least for the next month, I'm hoping to be able to keep it going as much as possible. So for me, it's just basically what this has done, I feel, has really exposed a lot of practices, my own included, where it's like, wow, when you thought you were okay, when you thought you were doing well, all it takes is one little incident that's outside of your control. I shouldn't say little, big incident that's outside your control. And then you realize, wow, all the vulnerabilities of your practice and things you should set up for, things you should prepare for, and not just business as usual.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really good point, is that it has exposed. Daryl Glover was saying this, and I think Adam Ramsey was saying this as well last time we chatted. It really has exposed, and you can look at it either way you want, right? But I think in a good way, it's exposed us now. It's forced us to look at the things that we weren't good at, or maybe there were some weaknesses that we had. And it's interesting, we talk about it from a clinic perspective, but this morning I was chatting with a good friend, and it's also exposed many people on a personal level. Like, when you go through a tough time, it's sort of like you can't really hold that cover anymore. You can't really hold that facade so much anymore. So you see some people are coming out and they're doing everything they can to serve others and be the best person they can be, and others are kind of grumpy and, not so pleasant. And so in a way, it's kind of exposing a lot of people. But really cool that you have implemented all of that stuff in your office. Now, I imagine that you probably had to call a bunch of people to put a few payments on hold as soon as this happened, especially since that's all brand new equipment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all the vendors I've worked with have been very good. I mean, really the hardest part of all this is that we don't know how long it's going to last, right? In the beginning, it was just 2 weeks. That's not too bad. Then it got pushed out for another few weeks, now another few weeks. So, right now I think the target date is mid-May. But even then, there's some people that believe that it may go until June or even July. And so it's the uncertainty. And that's what really kills it, because you can't plan around uncertainty. You can only plan with what you know. And, if you literally have to keep changing your plans every day because a new piece of news comes out, which changes what you can and cannot do, and it makes it difficult. So a lot of stress, a lot of uncertainty. But like I said, you always try to find the silver lining in everything. Take advantage of this time. I'm having all my staff watch webinars, do trainings. A few of them have actually decided to take this time to go for their ABO certification, which I really, really appreciate. They were proactive about that. And I even told them, hey, yeah, study for it. Let me know. I'll buy your materials. I'll pay for your test too. Absolutely take advantage of this time. I love that you asked me about that. So a lot of great things that can come from this.
For sure. Awesome. Ryan is co-owner of 2 sublease practices with LensCrafters. So Ryan, what does that look like for you since we've all gone? Because your stores are in a mall, and the malls have shut down completely. Is that correct?
Yep, you nailed it. Really at the end of the day, it's just like everybody expressed. It's been challenging. Furloughing employees. Looking at just where they're at in their lives, and just understanding their day to day. That's a very challenging thing to do. I don't think any of us have experience to that capacity, letting go an entire team and kind of putting them on the back burner for when things turn around. And, like everybody had mentioned, the unknown of when we're going to be able to go back and start working. What is that going to look like? And how are we going to operate? Things are going to change. And so, the nice part is, Luxottica is a massive corporation, and they gave us the ability as providers to say, it's your professional judgment to go ahead and kind of, shut the door, from that perspective. And then honestly, a couple of days later, the mall's closed. So, I feel like they've supported us from that end. And I do feel really good about that. We got the Jenn jumping.
Jenn's clone.
Jenn's clone's here.
I think I realized what happened. I think my dad's trying to join in, but he's using the computer under my name.
Got it.
Sorry about that.
Well, no, it's okay. It's okay, because if Daryl's in here, Daryl was doing. We had like 10 people try to join under Daryl's profile, and I had to keep shutting them out. So it's totally fine. Daryl has set the bar really low for all of us, so we're all good. But yeah, thank you, Ryan. So, and where do you see, I think that looked good on Lux's part to kind of come out ahead of it a little bit, right? To say, your call, doctors, if you feel like it's better to close doors. Because, and now when we look back, it's like kind of a no-brainer. It was inevitable that we would have had to do it anyway. But it's good that they had done that. Now, what's your, as far as you can predict anyway, outlook for when things come back to normal? You think you'll be bringing back some of your staff, all of your staff? Do you have a lot of associates that work in your practices?
Yeah, so, going through, obviously the loan process of applications for PPP and trying to figure out what we'd have them do if we can't access, the actual office. There's only so much you can do remotely. with your team and 2 offices in place. So I really can't predict, to be honest. I'm looking at it because I mean, my wife could go into labor at this moment as a as a unpaid paternity leave. So that's kind of how my view is right now. Every day that when my little guy comes along and the office isn't open, that's kind of what I'm looking at it as.
Yeah.
But we're preparing. We did a Zoom call with our team actually last week just to check in, make sure everybody's been able to file for unemployment, just have that conversation of where they're at, where their head's at, how they're doing, try to keep them optimistic and really just do it for ourselves too, because I think one of the biggest things we're taking away from this is that genuine human interaction, it's great via this kind of portal, but it's even better in person, right? And that's what makes these optometry meetings, Vision Expo, all these different meetings that we have face to face so valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that I've definitely noticed for myself personally, but just across the board for all the people I've been interacting with is, before all of this, we were like, man, we're losing this human connection. Everybody's just on their phone all the time. We don't really communicate the way we used to. Now this has hit, and now everybody's craving that in-person connection. Everybody wants to just shake a hand or something. You know what I mean? Yesterday was my daughter's birthday, and we had our family drive up to the curb and just wave and sing happy birthday to her. It was beautiful, but all she wanted to do was run up to everybody and give them a hug, and we were like,
so they don't understand at that age, it's so tough. My sister dropped by just to pick up something and, kind of launched it to her. My daughter was looking at her like, oh, Auntie Alicia, it's really tough. So, and happy belated to your daughter.
Yeah, thank you. And very excited for you and Allison. I'm
thank you.
Wishing you guys all the best and congratulations. I'm sure we'll be in touch before the little one's born, but very exciting. Those are all great answers. Thank you very much. I want to take a second to acknowledge all our attendees again. Thank you all for joining us. Lots of great questions and comments already. I want to say hi, Aaron. Thank you for saying hello. Vin, what's up? Nice to see you. And I see that there's a few questions here, guys. I promise we will do our best to get to them. In fact, why don't we actually address a couple of them? One of the topics I wanted to cover was related to school and students. And so we'll go through a couple of these questions here right now. Diana asks, what was your most memorable experience during optometry school? Sorry, I can't read. So we'll start with JT. When did you graduate optometry school? Where did you graduate from? And what was your most memorable experience?
I graduated from Salus University in 2014.
Exactly.
My most memorable moment, I think it was probably just going to, on the weekends, we would do a group trip and take the train down to downtown or Old City. And all the people in our class or within our lab group would just get together and just hang out and really let our guards down and get to know each other. I think that was memorable. It was always about the people and my colleagues at the end of the day. That made a difference.
JC?
Yeah, I would have to agree. So I graduated in 2015 from the University of Missouri, St. Louis College of Optometry. And I don't think there's one particular memory that I have, but just every moment that I spent with my good friends that I still talk to. And, we had a house party video chat not too long ago. Those are just the memories that I have. And I love them and cherish them forever because we all went through a really tough time together. And it was just, you made bonds that will never be broken. The friendships that you make in optometry school, you'll never lose those friendships. So,
yeah, that's great. Will?
I don't think I'm allowed to say some of the things. There's a lot of memories.
Yeah.
I don't know if some of you may have known me when I was a student. I graduated from Western 2016. I went to Vegas because it was only a 4-hour drive. I went every month, pretty much the entire time. Because there's a lot of memories I can't talk about because it's Vegas. But honestly, I mean, that's a big part of exactly what everybody was, both Jenns were just talking about. It's those type of things, right? Hanging out with your friends, the people you go through. I mean, optometry school, there's a lot of great moments. There's a lot of tough moments, right? There's a lot of heartbreak moments too. And but you go through it together, and that's what it is. It feels like, the classmates you have, your core group that you spent, 4 years with, that's family, right? Those are your brothers and sisters. They're not just your classmates. And, the best memories I have been going to, Vision Expo, Optometry Meeting Academy, when we shoved 7-8 people in one room because we're broke students. And then, and then we stay up all night. We're going to all these conferences, mixers, CE events, everything that you can think of. And then you just, out until 2-3 a.m. And then you wake up at 6 and do it all over again. So honestly, it's definitely the people.
Sorry, Jen, what was that?
I said, I'm pretty sure he still does that for Vision Expo.
Yeah.
Well, were you a student or was this last year?
We'll talk about these things. I have an image, reputation.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
The reputation does precede you. Ryan, year you graduated school and best, most memorable experience.
Yeah, I'm the oldest one on the call at 2012 graduation from the Ohio State University College of Optometry. And yeah, just the people, right? I mean, I feel like there were moments in time where we were quarantined with our class, whether in the library, in the lab, in the classroom. So we definitely knew how to handle that, right? But just the day-to-day of really enjoying time with my classmates. We did have a fraternity called Epsilon, Psi Epsilon, or the EYE fraternity at Ohio State. They had a house, and we used to do these house parties. One of the most fun ones of the year, though, is each class, first, second, third, and fourth year, would go ahead and do a skit, and there would be impersonations of the teachers. It was hilarious. It was a lot of fun just to see your classmates go ahead and enact some of your favorite characters, right? Like these personas within the school. So that would probably be one of my most memorable.
Very cool. And you are not the oldest person on the call, but we won't go into detail. So sticking with, I wanted to spend a little bit of time on optometry school and students on this call, because that is, of course, a big group of people who have been so strongly affected by this situation are students. I know we as practitioners, as clinic owners, business owners, we get stuck on the conversation of how it affects our business. But if you could put yourself back in third year and think about taking boards in a week or two, and all of a sudden that's canceled, or you're in fourth year and your graduation's canceled, that's a stressful situation for sure. So, of course, we have some questions here, and I think we can address a couple of them kind of at once. In general, kind of what advice would you have for students? I'll actually read this question here. It's a good question. What advice do you have for third year students? MBO 1 got canceled. Many students felt prepared. Now you're feeling lost and unmotivated since we don't know when the exam will be. Let's start with whoever wants to just jump in. What advice would you have for that student in that position? Not all at once, guys. All right, Ryan, I'm going to go with you.
Yeah, no, I would say take some time off. I think everybody on this call, and Jenn mentioned it, the burnout factor, right? Like you're preparing for something at such a high level. NBEO part 1 is, kind of the tip of the iceberg right there. It's the top of the, it's really the most challenging, in my opinion, part of optometry school. Once you get over that, everything else kind of starts to flow together and it becomes more clinical. So be kind to yourself, practice self-care, do what you can just to rest, relax, recharge your batteries. And then when you get an affirmative date, start preparing again. And another thing I can tell you is I don't care how hard I studied for that exam, the preparation that you did throughout school over time, plus whatever you did, CAM-K or the prep leading up to it, it all kind of comes together during the exam, right? So it doesn't matter what you studied 2 weeks before, a week before, a month before, right? It's that culmination over time of knowledge that's going to get you through that exam. So don't overstress. What you guys experience is, in my opinion, one of the worst possible things you could experience in optometry school. But guess what? That's already in your rearview mirror, right? So when it's scheduled next, you have the opportunity to take it, you're going to knock it out of the park.
I'll go. I agree with Ryan. I think if you can come out of this, you're only going to become stronger, a stronger candidate coming out, graduating from school, knowing that you went through school during this at a time of a big exam like NBEO. But I would also recommend not stressing and doing too much, because if you study so hard and you don't know what you're preparing for or the exact date, you might burn out quicker and then you'll lose steam when it's actual time to really go. I would probably spend the time just understanding maybe like what it's like clinically, learning from maybe mentors or watching, I don't know, videos about just other things, maybe not the nitty gritty, what you can say for when you know when you're going to actually start studying.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with both of what they said. I think it's definitely a time to take a step back. I mean, you are going through something that none of us have been through and none of the optometry schools or NBO has ever had to deal with before. So they understand that this is a difficult time. And I think taking a break and just taking a step back and not stressing too much about it. And even your online classes, I mean, they're still doing online classes, but all the schools are still trying to figure that out right now. I mean, optometry school is very hands-on. You have to be in clinic with each other, in labs together, practicing on each other. So I think a lot of the students right now are like concerned about like, how much am I learning? Is this going to be helpful for me? Is this going to be applicable? Like how is this going to like help my career? And I think it's just a time to take a step back and realize that we all understand you're going through something and the amount of knowledge that you have, you're going to be just as good as all of us and better because of everything that you've been through. So just kind of take a break.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would even say, you know, I have actually two things I would recommend. First, it's a little bit it's a little bit cliche to say this, but honestly, you know, think about why you're in optometry school, like why you're doing this, right? Because you know, it takes a lot to get through the program, and you know, and I've done it myself. Whatever motivates you, whether it's you know a nice house in the future, a fancy car, money, I don't care. Put a picture of it right in front of you so that you can see it every single day, because you need that, you need to keep that motivation, you need to keep that enthusiasm up, whatever it takes. You know, I had a classmate, I remember he put a Lamborghini as his wallpaper for his computer during the entire time he studied for boards, because that's how he kept motivating. Every time he turned on the computer, that's what I'm doing this for. That's fine. You know, we all have our own reasons. You know, you want to put a picture of that, put a picture of your family, whatever. I don't care. But yeah, you're right. It is tough because, you know, we don't know when it's going to be rescheduled. Could be a month, could be 2 months. It's hard to maintain a high level, which, you know, you shouldn't do all the time, but you do need to keep it up. So actually what I would recommend is doing exactly what we're doing right here, using these type of Zoom meetings with your classmates. Spend about an hour, throw questions at each other, review with each other. So it's kind of, you're killing two birds with one stone. One, you're maintaining that level of review for boards when it comes back up. But two, you're also getting a chance to interact with your classmates. So after you do your hour or so of review, just sit and chat. Don't think about boards. Don't talk about optometry. Catch up, see how everyone's doing. Rotate that through, you know, with a few different handful of study groups in your class, you know, so that you have different groups of people that you're constantly interacting with. So you get that human interaction, that a little bit of, you know, taking care of each other, making sure you're okay, and you can slip in some review because you're all, you know, in the same boat together studying for this.
Yeah,
I'd
absolutely.
also add, they haven't taken 3, which is just the clinical yet, right? Because that's usually scheduled till later.
Yeah.
That's whenever. You can take part 3 whenever.
Yeah. I mean, I took my part 3 before part 2, and this is a great time to start dilating your parents, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your dog, and start practicing DIO.
Yeah.
Just Jen will mail you some tropicamide. Send her your address, and she'll give you as much as you want.
Oh, that's funny.
That's good advice. I mean, if you're quarantined with people, you might as well use them as your patients if you can. You know, I think that's great advice. We're going to slowly move back into discussions about business in a second, but advice that you might have now moving a year ahead, fourth year students who are graduating or supposed to be and need to start looking for jobs real soon. Any advice on when they should do it, and should they approach it any differently than they would have if this was not happening? Will?
You know, like I said, you have the time. You know, now's a great time for you to reach out to all these different people. A lot of people are looking for associates now. You know, they tend to wait for the new group of new grads every single year. I think, yeah, would be a great time for you to schedule, you know, Zoom interviews with potential employers. You know, catch up on your LinkedIn, touch it up right now. I think I read an article, something like in the last month, about 60 to 80% of all LinkedIn users updated their LinkedIn just in case, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, you got the time to do that now. I mean, like I said, it sucks that there's no graduation anymore, or I'm not sure if they're going to try to do some kind of Zoom version of it or whatnot, or virtual graduation. But in the end, you know, you're going to get your degree. You'll be a doctor of optometry. You will be able to practice. You'll be able to get your license just like the rest of us. And I know it sucks because you wish you could cross that finish line and gotten that, you know, that applause from your family and all your classmates. But remember why you're here. Remember why you're doing it. And you're still going to be just as good as every one of us. Just, you know, it's not a good situation, but you've gone through all the other bad situations you've ever had in your life to get to this point. So it's just another hurdle. You know, we're all here to support you as much as we can.
All right. Anybody else advice for fourth years looking for jobs?
Yeah, I would agree with what Will said. And I also think this is a great opportunity because the practice owners that are looking for associates, they may not know how to get themselves back to normal after this is over. So I think having, you know, ideas and strategies to provide for them and show that you're, you know, you're new and you have fresh ideas and you have this great knowledge is going to be a great way for you to find somebody after this is all over, because a lot of people don't really know what to do. They think that once this is over, they're going to resume business as normal, and that's not how things should be. I think, you know, everything with telemedicine and all the online things are going to be great updates that, you know, as a fourth year, I would, you know, educate myself on that so that I can bring that to the table and say, hey, this is what I can help you with if you don't know how to do it. This is how I can see your practice growing in the future after this is over.
JT, Ryan?
I agree with everyone.
Ditto.
I mean,
That's done.
Yeah, honestly,
I'm waiting to ask something where you guys disagree with each other. I'm trying to make that happen. I'm going to see what I can do about that.
I will say though, Harbeer, I mean, they're gonna find job opportunities. Like, you know, we are in a weird, unique time where none of us have ever experienced anything like this. Mm-hmm. So my opinion of them is keep the foot on the gas. You know, keep reaching out to people, build your network, never stop networking, right? So try to really zone in. If you already know what you're gonna do, if you already have a job locked up, start asking, hey, how can I help, right? What can I do to help, you know, remotely? If you're looking, you know, between opportunities, or you're just, you know, scouring, you know, the country, or maybe you're preparing for residency and you're not even sure if residency is going to start on time. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. Keep your foot on the gas. Be positive about the fact that this is going to pass. I've never seen a storm that has not passed, right? Every single storm comes through and it moves on. Some are a lot worse than others. This is a terrifying storm, but it will pass.
Yeah. I do want to add something to just what Chinn was saying, that, you know, one of the interesting things, and going back to what I first mentioned when we started this, is how much this has exposed us. This pandemic has exposed us, and what I think we're going to start seeing a lot of once the practices reopen is a lot less focus on routine care, because they see how easily it can make your practice, but also when in situations like this, it can break a practice. So I would actually recommend to all you know, fourth year students, young ODs right now. Brush up on your specialty optometry, you know, whether it's contact lenses, disease, VT, whatever, because routine eye care is not going to be as prominent, I think, moving forward as it was, you know, 6 months ago, because people are going to be scared. You know, this year we have you know, I joke about this, we have coronavirus now. What if in 2021, beginning of 2021, we have the Budweiser virus, right? I mean, you never know. So something like this has, I think, shown that routine care is a big part of our the way we practice, but we can't just spend 80 to 90% of our practice revolved around that. So dip into that specialty care, dip into telemedicine, learn this, so that for all the owners out there who were too busy or you know, just never had this type of education when they were in school, you know, you're going to be that associate they're going to want to hire to basically future-proof their practice.
I'll add a little bit as well. What Will's saying, I do agree with as well. A lot of practices, if coming out as they realize they weren't strong enough as a practice to survive, they're gonna, hopefully they recognize their weaknesses and they'll look for someone that has the strengths that they need in a candidate. And it could be things like telemedicine. I would work on creating your digital resume, your social presence. When people look for doctors these days, it's all online, and you want to create a good, you know, sort of I guess, a digital CV of how you look like and what you're capable of coming out of school, and they'd be very shocked that you're able to do that. I would find that amazing, that a new grad comes out and they have such an amazing presence online.
That's fantastic. And that's actually a perfect segue to something I was going to ask you guys about anyways at some point, which is the digital presence. Of course, each of you has built a wonderful presence and built really elaborate networks of other ODs and students and other people, in different industries even. I would love to get your take on how somebody could go about doing that, whether it's on social media like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or in person. Just maybe 2 or 3 tips that you could give to somebody kind of starting out to build that. And like Jenn was saying here, because I believe that could be very valuable coming out of this. It'll help. Another question that was asked in the Q&A is, other than adding a specialty of practice, how else can we help bring patients in and grow the practice? I think that social presence, social media presence is huge. So JC, if you could start us off, what would you suggest?
I would say that just starting off, realize that social media is a way for you to connect with people. And that's basically what our job is as an optometrist. We're connecting with people, we're caring for people. So I don't remember who told this to me a while ago, but I remember somebody said, the way to start off is by thinking, what are like 10 common questions that a patient has for you? Or what are the most common questions that come in the exam room, and you can address those. So that's a way that I kind of started mine. It was kind of like a, hey, PSA, this is important, or this is a question that a lot of people ask. And just realizing that it's a way for you to inform people and also to bring value to optometry as a profession. So it's just putting the knowledge out there. I think as social media, it's a great way for you to connect with people and do that. That's basically what I'm doing.
Brian.
Yeah, Jenn, I love that, because we as a profession, we should never, ever, ever take our foot off the gas how much we educate the consumer. Really, at the end of the day, optometry as a profession has evolved dramatically. And if we stop doing what we're doing on the Hill and we stop doing what we're doing from a patient education perspective, it could get really bad very quickly, right? So doing whatever you can to educate the consumer and connect with other professionals, educating other, healthcare professionals on how you can be a resource and work hand in hand. And all of those things are fantastic. Obviously it's really hard to do face-to-face interaction right now. So setting up Zoom calls, but I'm a huge proponent of actually, showing up when you can legally do so. The 6 feet social distancing thing is kind of putting that, off to the side. But when you have the green light to do so, again, show up to meetings, whether it's industry functions, local society meetings, whether it's something in your community that's non-optometry related to start networking. All of those things are really important. And then, we have some of the best brand experts here. I would say that, continue to build your brand online, right? Build your brand online, walk the walk, talk the talk, and be authentic, because nobody can be you better than you.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Dr. Seuss line, but that's great.
Yeah, I love that.
I read too many of those books.
He's quoting his own book that he's writing right now.
Yeah.
No, I actually, I think it needs to be a hybrid approach. You need to be both available online and offline. Obviously, right now we're not able to do much offline with each other, with our patients. Online, through digital media, I agree. Authenticity is huge. At the end of the day, that's you have to go where the consumers, where the patients want to go. Even if you personally don't feel like you like, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever the platform is, you don't have to use it personally, but to not take advantage of its reach and its ability to connect with patients on the business end of things is, I think, unfortunate. And you really want to make sure, as Ryan said, that you're as authentic as you can be. Yeah, you want to draw inspiration from some of the big players out there, the Dr. Jenn juices and whatnot, Dr. Chinn. But at the same time, you want to be you, and do it in your way, whether you want to be that lifestyle type of doctor, you want to be the travel type of doctor, you want to be the foodie type of doctor. Just be you. Authenticity is huge. And personally, for me, I don't really worry about making the pictures like super perfect with the lighting, the filters and stuff. I do add some of that myself, but I probably spend an average of like 20 seconds or less because I just like to show you my perspective of things and the things that I do, and I don't want to spend too much time on these, making it too perfect, which I think kind of lowers the authenticity of the things that you do, but that's a personal preference on my part. So it doesn't have to take up a lot of time, as most people might think.
Got it.
Agree with everyone. I think that really just be someone's friend. Just pretend like the person across the other side of your phone is your friend, and you're talking to them as if you were to talk to them on the phone. I think that that's where the authenticity comes across, and I think that you can draw people's attentions because you show that you care for them. So I guess in terms of things like social media, I mean, Instagram, I obviously do Instagram, but I do think that after this COVID is over, I think people are showing their sort of raw side more, their emotional side more, being more relatable and more real in real time. So I think that there is a part of that part that's changing, where I think Instagram, you might start seeing people showing their true self. But I also think that there's platforms that I just started going on to, like TikTok and YouTube, which are also completely different. On TikTok, you can just be silly and be yourself and be real, and no one cares. They just say stuff, and you can still educate people about, like, let's say dry eyes or what's astigmatism and things like that. So just extending your branch out to all the channels that's available. But I would say have a specific niche or like skill that you focus on.
Yeah, great. I want to really want to respect time. In the interest of time here, one more kind of important practice related question, then we're going to move on to our little quick fire round. I hope we were answering questions to everybody's satisfaction. Thank you again, and everybody in attendance, for asking those questions. One question that's come up quite a lot here, and in general comes up quite a lot, is how you are, if you are using telehealth right now, and how you expect to continue using that moving forward after this is all cleared up. Ryan.
So I set up a Doxy.me account. It's a freemium product, so you can definitely upgrade for more of the features, and that's really what I have play right now. North Carolina has a unique rule in place where you have to have the patient be an established patient to provide telemedicine. And so, we've looked at iCare Live, and it's definitely an option as well, because we can communicate with all of our patients about that. We can also send out email blasts, and it's a little bit more robust. It integrates with EHR. There's a lot of cool functionality. So continuing to explore that is, just a huge facet of how our profession is going to change, and really knowing what is appropriate for telemedicine and what is appropriate for, in person, and kind of figuring, that out as we go. I think we all know it, but really defining that and continuing to define that.
For sure. JT?
I spent the first couple of weeks trying like 2 to 3 different platforms out, because I tried it out as a professional and I tried it out as a patient, because you want to know what the patient's experience is like. And for me, some of the platforms I realized weren't as easy because you had to go through a few extra apps or a few extra loops to make that appointment. So I am using Doxy.me as well. I think it's very easy. You just go on a browser and they just wait in the waiting room, and you can charge the patient, and you can fill it out in your EHR. I think in the future, though, I definitely think some portions of virtual exams are here to stay. I wouldn't be surprised. I would consider in the long setting up a long-term, more full functioning system going for maybe like follow-up patients who don't need to come in and things like that, quick exams that don't need to take up your exam chair, because then you'll have more time to spend with patients who do come in for a routine exam, but you can still see them as well virtually. I just wouldn't be surprised if that isn't going to stay around in the future.
You do or don't think, sorry, it will?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's going to be, I don't think it's possible to do a really good like eye exam for prescription, but definitely it would be something that will still be around. And especially with things like 1-800 contacts in Warby Parker allowing express exams right now and filling prescriptions. I mean, who knows if that's going to be something that's going to be around after this ends. So.
Well.
Yeah, I think I also use Doxy.me. I set it up probably about a week and a half ago, and I just saw a couple of patients about 2 days ago. So yeah, the biggest things is, you can set it up, you can prepare for it, but once you actually do it, that's when you kind of see where you get the good benefits of having telehealth and virtual exams available. And then you also see the drawbacks very quickly as well too. Being able to, all the different red eyes, like what you can tell, what you don't have quite the detail to see, even if you have a nice laptop webcam or whatnot. So yeah, this is going to be part of the future. I think this pandemic has probably accelerated our interest and our patients' interest in telehealth by about 5 years. It's going to be around. It may not be as much as we are doing it now all across the nation once things open up. But I think as patients become more comfortable with these type of virtual exams, as doctors become more comfortable with these type of virtual exams, it's going to be a part of our practice. It won't be, I think, the majority of it. I think, brick and mortar face-to-face is still going to be for a long time, the far majority of what most patients want and doctors want to do, but it's going to have a place, I think, and it's here to stay. And the more comfortable you can be with it now, the better you can set yourself up and find where your limitations are, the limitations of the platform, and what you're able to treat and manage the patient virtually, and what you can't. Now is the better you set yourself up for the next few years.
JC?
I agree with what everybody said. I think telemedicine is definitely an interesting thing that we're battling with now. And as a profession, it's always been hard for us to wrap our heads around that. But I think it's a great opportunity, not only for us to learn how to triage our patients. So, small things like Jenn was saying, as far as like people that need to come in for follow-ups that don't need to be seen, like we don't need to look under the microscope to take a look and make sure that they're doing fine. But I also think this is a great opportunity for communities out there that don't have access to care, or they don't have close access to care. This is a great way for us to still be able to provide them a face-to-face, visit, or, just having someone there for them in the event that they don't have anybody they can go to, or they're immobile or something like that. I think there's a lot of need out there. So I think it's going to be interesting after this, how it kind of evolves in our industry, but I think it's a great thing. And I think if you don't implement it into your practice, it's going to be hard for you to kind of continue to grow with optometry as a profession. I think we all see the value of it, and we see that it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, man, there's so many questions I really do want to ask you guys still, but again, in the interest of time, we're going to move on. I like to do a few quick questions. Do you guys have a pen and paper handy?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. All right, so we do this for fun, but let's start with a couple of kind of lighter, fun questions, and we'll ask a couple more sort of personal, motivational, if you will, questions. So, and then of course, I need to add a little bit of music. So I'll ask you a question, I'll play a little bit of music, I'll give you like 10, 15 seconds to write your answer, and then I want you all to just show me all at the same time so we can see what you wrote down, okay? So, during COVID, during isolation, what is the one food you have not been able to eat that you have been craving the most?
Dun, dun.
I'm going to ask you if you could hear the music, but then Ryan started dancing, so I figured it would.
Yeah.
All right, let's see all your guys' answers. The food that you've been craving the most.
All right. It's weird.
Sushi, Korean
Oh, is it?
Wow, sushi, almost all around.
Boom.
I'm eating sushi myself quite a bit. Korean barbecue sounds delicious right now too. Gosh. All right. Next question. If you were a singer, I'm assuming none of you are singers, but if you were a singer, what genre would you be in, and what would your debut album be called?
Oh my gosh.
Will's already Is that enough time? You guys got your answers. Let's see what you got.
You got me rushed.
You know what? I didn't even state in the beginning. Let's try and keep the answers to like 10 words or less. But Ryan,
I
I'll give you 2 more seconds if you got to write something down. If not,
we're good. We're good. We're good.
All right, let's see what you got.
only have one of the answers.
Oh yeah,
Broadway.
yeah. I didn't come up with the name fast enough. I'm clearly a boy band kind of guy.
Choose country. Don't blink. That's the name of your album. I love that. Oh, Ryan's the only one who put a name for an album down, guys. All right, I didn't give you enough time. That's fair. All right, one more fun one. Then I want to ask you a couple little bit more heavier questions, if you will. What did you want to be when you grow up? When you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? Don't write optometrist because I know that's not true. All right, let's see them. Fashion designer, hairstylist by day, waitress by night. Astronaut, space cowboy, I love it. IT professional, aka my dad. I love that. That's nice. That's cute. That's cute, Ryan. All right.
It's true. It's true.
Great answers, guys. Okay. There are 2 questions I like to ask everybody at the end of a podcast episode, every guest that I have. Before I jump to those, there's one last question that I think is an important one to all consider, for us all to consider. With everything going on with COVID, with self-isolation, quarantine, all of that, what would you say is the biggest silver lining for you during this time? Enough time?
Almost. Okay.
I did say 10 words, right? Let's see them.
Wasn't sure what.
Self-care, taking a step back, appreciate hanging out with more people more, family time, my health, loved ones. Love it. Good, great answers, guys. Okay, so there's 2 questions, as I was saying, I ask everybody at the end of every podcast episode. The first one of those 2 is, if you could step in a time machine and go back to a point in your life that you felt you were struggling, you were having a tough time, what advice would you give to yourself during that difficult time? So again, try to keep it to 10 words if you can. What advice would you give yourself during a difficult period of your life? All right. Let's see them. It's worth it. Keep going. Great. Ryan, a little closer, a little higher. Stop worrying. Everything will work out. Jenn, Chinn, this too shall pass. Do not worry about what you can't control. I love that. JT?
That was 12 words. Just saying. Just saying. We have rules for a reason. We live in a society with rules.
What happened there?
She had 12 words, not 10. I'm just saying. Just saying.
All right. Last question that I like to ask every guest on my podcast is, with everything you guys have accomplished, and you guys have really, all of you, each of you, done so many things already, how much of what you have accomplished to this point would you say is due to luck, and how much is due to hard work? Feel free to write a percentage if you like. Okay. Okay, starting with JT here. 100% hard work, less than 50% luck. All right. JC, 50-50, thanks to my dad. 90-10 for Will. 90-10 for Ryan. All right.
Well, yeah.
There you go. You have to have a little bit of luck, always.
I love that. I love that.
I'm still waiting to win the lottery, so just a little bit of luck.
Jenn, Aneth is calling you out.
I know. I was like, I know.
Feel free. I'll take a second to clarify if you want, but otherwise we're gonna before we finish, I would love for everybody to share where everyone can find you if they have any more questions or would love to follow you. Let's start with JT. Where can everybody find you? What's your preferred platform?
I'm on Instagram under Dr. Jenn and Juice, but you can also follow me on TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube, and LinkedIn. Oh, and Peloton. Thank you.
I got you on that one today. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love my Peloton.
JC?
Oh, I'm also on Instagram, dr.chin. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn. I do have a TikTok, but I'm not really it's just for fun. So you can find me mostly on Instagram or Facebook.
Ryan?
Yeah, LinkedIn, just Ryan Corte. And then I recently changed my handle, I was pointed out, to Ryan Reflects. Just switching it up because it has a dual meaning, an optical reference, obviously, and then a deep thinking meaning. So just excited to get that rocking and rolling. So all the platforms on Ryan Reflects.
Well,
all right. Yeah. You can find me on as The Traveling OD on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Those are the main ones I use, but pretty much everything. I don't know. I could potentially change it to Quarantine OD. We'll see. It's not as deep meaning as what Ryan has, but it's, it fits. It fits. But I just have to be careful if I change it. I know somebody's going to jump on it and just snatch that username.
Yeah, you might just have to hang on to what you have, or you could create a fake account with your
just like a placeholder. Yeah. I do. Actually, I also have the accounts on Instagram, the Traveling OS and the Traveling OU, just in case.
That's amazing.
Just in case.
Fantastic. I love that. Okay.
That is nerdy.
ODs are a special breed. That's when it comes to iPuns. We definitely go all out. So thank you again. Before we wrap up, I want to do something a little bit different this time. Having a lot of conversations with so many different people, and then kind of going through my own process here as well. So I wanted to just share a couple thoughts. Those of you who know me and anybody who follows me online, you know that I like motivational quotes, I like cliches. So I just wanted to end on this note. We are in this together, all right? Never in our lifetime has there been such a global, all-encompassing, transcending event. And it may be scary, it may be stressful, but we are in this together. And if you do feel any fear or anxiety rising in you, just remember this, that you are here. With everything that you're going through, you are here. And that means your success rate for surviving bad days and tough situations is 100%. All the tough times you've been through, all the difficult exams, the lack of finances, and now a full-blown pandemic, you are 100% at succeeding through difficult times because you are still here. And finally, a quote that I shared on Instagram today: the days are long, but the years are short. So before you know it, we'll be looking back and remembering the days of quarantine and sharing these stories with our kids. We have the choice to make those fond memories and fun stories if we choose to. So everybody, do your best, stay positive, stay healthy, stay happy. Thank you again for joining us here, for joining me on group chat. I really, really appreciate everybody's time, especially all the panelists. Thank you all very much. And we'll see you again very soon. There'll be another group chat coming in another week or so please stay tuned for all of that. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
See you, everybody.
Bye, guys.